Hello, everyone. This is Opus Night, and you have entered Night Vision. Tonight we have Jason, Patrick, Barbara, and John. And I'm going to go through and let each one of them speak to you about their book. They're going to read their blurb, and we're going to get to know them. We're going to have a great time. So I hope you stay tuned. Okay, John, can we start with you?
Sure.
All righty.
So my most recent book is Alien People. I'll hold it up so you can see it. And it's the first in series of a sci-fi trilogy that I'm writing.
Okay.
And so basically, Alien People follows the story of Calandra, Menankar, and Extrugan, two residents of an alien planet who discover a probe sent from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide to make first contact with Earth after discovering the probe. And when they come to Earth, things don't turn out the way they're expecting. They expect to greet peaceful people, and knowing typical people on Earth, things go awry right away. And I published Alien People in September 2020. The second book in the series, Dark Metamorphosis, is scheduled to be released mid-July this year. And Alien People can be found in major booksellers worldwide. It's available in ebook and paperback on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Books, Kobo, Apple Books, Books A Million, IndieBound, basically everywhere you can get Alien People.
Fading out on us a little bit, just to let you know.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you unless you're moving around a lot, and then it kind of like stirs everything up, just so you know. So kind of stay still, Bruce. All righty, that sounds wonderful. Barbara, we see those beautiful books behind you. Tell us.
Okay. Future Apocalypse Beginnings is the first book in a time travel series where a brilliant young woman named Paulette invents time travel, decides to go 250 years into the future to study new technology, but then finds herself in a post-apocalyptic world and ends up getting stuck there when her time pod malfunctions. Book 2 finds her with a group of people that are trying to help her, and they're headed towards a place called the City of Technology, where she hopes that at least they'll have the technology that might be able to help her. She finds more than she expects to find when she gets there. Mm-hmm. And in book 3, it finds her jumping through time and history, trying to prove that changing the past won't work, and still trying to get home. And it does say homeward bound, and she does sort of get home, but there's a little twist to it. Book 1 was published in August of 2019, and then book 2, May 2020, and book 3 came out just before Black Friday this 2020. And so those 3 are out in paperback, ebook, audiobook, and now hardbound through Amazon. And then the first 2 paperbacks are available in all other markets, just the paperbacks, such as Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Books A Million. I haven't gotten to publishing book 3 yet through Ingram Spark to make that worldwide, because I'm deciding whether I want to put the ebooks in with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. They're all beautiful.
Thank you. Had a great cover designer.
We can tell. And everyone, the way that we run the show, I should have let you know ahead of time. If you have any questions, I want you guys to be able to, like the round table, where voice your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings. Okay. And I just want us to have a great time. Okay.
Okay.
All righty. Patrick. Hello, love. Tell us about your book.
So the book that I'm discussing is called Broken Crossroads.
Okay.
It's a sword and sorcery fantasy. It's done in the old style, the old pulp, like Fritz Lieber and Robert E. Howard kind of Far from the Gray Mouser kind of story. It's it's a buddy rogue kind of heist type story.
Mm-hmm.
An escaped slave turned acrobat who's become a burglar teams up with a retired mercenary, and they wind up trying to, do a few little jobs to steal things. They wind up getting embroiled into these more involved situations with, dark magic and ancient gods. And they wind up having to save the city and might not even get paid for it, which is really tragic. So, and that's book one. The sequel is Robbing Death, where they wind up taking a contract for the high priestess of the goddess of death. And so it's very much in the style of the old short serial sword and sorcery fiction, which I just think is a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. I've never written fiction, but I admire anyone who can. I love science fiction movies, but I do know. Now, how do you do research for science fiction, actually? Patrick?
How hard your science is in your science fiction. If you're trying to be, there's a whole lot of difference in research between like Star Wars and 2001: A Space Odyssey. It depends how real you want it.
Nice. Jason?
Hi. All right. My book, Eve.
That is lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. So I call this a post-apocalyptic noir. And so this is a book, it's about corporate Denver. It's a futuristic cesspool of crime, depravity, and excess. Those with status have access to the world's depleting resources. Those who don't struggle to keep one step ahead of death. Integration Technologies consultant Jacob Riley wades through the dystopian morass, hunting people whose cybernetic enhancements have glitched and turned them into raving monsters. But a unique job opportunity sends this former family man on a quest to do something he swore he would never do: help the elites who oppress him. When he meets Eve, a genetically hybrid modified human, is escaped a corporate lab, everything he believes and holds dear is challenged as he plunges headlong into the shadows of a dying Earth, racing to stop the ruling elite's endgame for humanity.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, when everyone has, when you're writing dialogue, how do you integrate your characters? Do you put them in relationships with each other, or do you have them more where they meet up at different destinations? How do you work around dialogue? Because I know some authors have very succinct ways of working their dialogue. It's almost like patterned. And that's a beautiful thing, because dialogue sometimes is one of those things that you can have too much or you can have too little. So, John, how do you work in dialogue?
With the way I approach dialogue is, before I even start stories, I'll do like character biographies and kind of sketch out, the personal histories of the characters, their personalities, physical appearance, everything I can think of concerning that character, so that when I have them meet up in a scene or interact in a scene, the dialogue is framed based on kind of those characters' personalities and how those personalities would interact or clash, depending on the situation that they're placed into.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like we'll take my book Alien People for example. Extra and Calandra are a couple in the book, and so their dialogue and their conversations are going to be different than Calandra's conversations with members of Extra's crew who she meets for lunchtime as the story progresses. And so, I mean, it just basically depends on, you know, their personalities and what situation I place them into when they are in a scene together.
Now, do you find it easy or hard to write dialogue?
I actually find it pretty easy because my day job for the past, well, day and night job for the past 16 years has been working as a journalist. And so I've interviewed hundreds of people over the course of the past 16 years. I've interacted with people from all different walks of life. And so I've kind of gotten a feel for, you know, different personalities, different conversations and within different contexts. And so I can draw on that past and present experience in forming and crafting dialogue that feels authentic, feels realistic, feels like, you know, something that someone would say when placed in the situation that I'm portraying in my story.
Now, is it easier to be a journalist or to write a book, in your opinion?
It's easier to write a book, to be honest.
I had to ask.
Journalism is fraught with like stressful, tight deadlines. Writing a book is so much more fun and rewarding than cranking out an article with like a 1 hour deadline.
I bet. I've always been interested in journalism. I had a girlfriend years ago who we actually lost touch, but she ended up becoming a journalist. And I was like, why did we lose touch? Because that's the fun of it. I mean, I love writing, and we used to play off of each other just when I would write something. And she started doing journalism, and then she was gone. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to have to look her up. Okay, Patrick, how about you?
I love writing dialogue. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Mine too.
And I think that comes from just, if you're a keen observer of speech, like I listen to people talk, I'll listen to other conversations people have around. Mm-hmm. And if you know, whatever media you consume, it's just, you get the feel and the flavor and the rhythm of language. And I just really enjoy playing with that. So I would love to write a book that's nothing but witty dialogue and sword fights. That's kind of my goal. Yeah. It's just to keep that. So I try to keep the character in mind with their voice. So once you have the voice of the character, the dialogue almost writes itself. You put them in a situation and you'll just know what they're going to say. You'll know how they're going to react, and you'll know how the other characters are going to react to what they say. So I just get in a flow with dialogue. I find that one of the easiest things to do.
That's beautiful. I know there are authors who we've even had on the show who are like, oh, I hate dialogue. And I'm like, why? How can you hate dialogue, you know? And they're like, I don't know. It's just, it's one thing when you're social in, you know, social situations, but then when you have to draw upon certain conversational things, you know, that's kind of where I guess it gets a little lost. Now, Jason?
Well, I can actually agree with what Patrick is saying as far as the rhythm and the flow of language. I mean, that's my main focus writing dialogue is trying to make it flow and trying to make it seem like a real conversation. You know, I think a lot of the time, you know, and a lot of this bad dialogue that I've read and come across in the past is people trying to treat dialogue like grammatically correct part of of the book, and it can't be like that because we don't speak like that, right? And so trying to get that natural flow in dialogue is something that I do, and really try to make it seem like it's actual people that are actually speaking. And in order to do that, with my dialogue particularly, I play around with the punctuation a lot, and so break it off, after they'd say, a few words, or something like that, and then start it up again. It's more, more of a natural flow, like people would speak, because that's kind of how we speak. We speak in sentence fragments, not complete sentences most of the time.
Right.
So
And the
yeah,
emphasis where your voice would be elevated, the punctuation to match. I got it. That's clever. I like that. Now, Patrick, when you're structuring a story, do you go from start to finish, or do you make an outline? Are you a pantser, or what's your vision for stories? How do you work it?
Yeah. From wherever it'll come to me, either it'll be like just a fragment of a scene or a character or some emotion, and I'll sit down, I'll write a scene, and then that scene will, all right, well, what happened before it? What brought that about? Well, what would happen after it? I haven't been able to successfully sit down and outline a whole story.
I can't find it.
But just I'll just start with something simple. It'll be like, how would somebody handle this? Well, how would this kind of person handle it? And then, why did they get themselves in that situation? Well, how did they get out of it? And it keeps me flowing, keeps me interested, keeps me going. And then afterwards, I have a lot of cleanup to do. So that's the downside of not outlining. But the advantage is it helps me keep going. So
Good. John, are you a pantser?
I'm kind of a hybrid on that. Like, I do plot things out. Like I mentioned earlier, I do character biographies, character sketches when I come up with an idea. And then I will do an initial chapter by chapter outline where I kind of try and get down the main plot beats through the story. But after that, I just go where the characters take me. I start writing scenes, and the characters will have me go off in directions I didn't envision when I first outlined. And so in a lot of ways, I start out as a plotter and then morph into a pantser as I'm writing the story. But it's nice to have that initial outline so that I can kind of, stay on track, not go deviating off into 5 different directions and have a mess that I can't tie together at the end of the story.
Gotcha.
But I do leave myself plenty of room to be creative and to deviate from what I've outlined and to draw out a different story than maybe I anticipated in the beginning. Like the outlines for all my novels hardly resemble the final product. But that's what makes it fun, is just kind of discovering the story as you're going along.
I agree. I am probably the biggest pantser out there, or pantser, however. I say pantser. I like the term pantser because to me, you can write with or without pants. That's just my thing. But now, outlines, I've tried, but my story, I get caught in a flow and I'm right there with them. And I love it that way. I have a beautiful time. It's a great ride. Now, Barbara, are you an outliner?
No way.
No, I should have just said, everyone raise your hand, or everyone just kind of yell out. You're all pantsers.
Yeah, no, I struggled even with outlines in school. I find that I do better as a pantser, but I also spend a lot of time for some reason, my mind just goes over the story. Like I'll lay down at night, my mind just beats out a couple of chapters and I'm like, oh crud, I got to get up and type it all in. But no, I find that going with the flow of the story and letting the characters kind of, I mean, I know a general idea what I'm going to do, but the characters kind of flow in and you know, take different directions. Like people die that I didn't expect to, or someone comes in that I didn't expect to be in there, taking on different personality qualities, that kind of thing. And as far as like the dialogue stuff, oh boy, I struggled really hard on the first book, just trying to figure out how best to do it. Not so much about interacting the characters, but you know, getting rid of the he said, she said, and all this stuff. And then slowly got going on doing better in the other books. I have fans that like one of the characters in book 2 because he talks like this. I've got so many things that tells you. So, yeah.
Now, do you act out your characters?
I think in my head I do, you know, because I can actually, I'm sure you've seen all those memes. This is what I see in my head and this is what I actually write. Well, that's me. I can fully develop the scene in my head and what the characters are saying back and forth. And by the time I sit down at the computer, I'm going, okay, I wish I could just plug my brain into the computer and just let it download, because it'd be so much better. But, you know, we all have to just try and get it from our head to our fingers.
Mm-hmm. John?
I'm here.
I just wanted to bother.
Sorry, a little bit of a lag there.
I seen you. We were watching. Now, Jason, let me ask you guys, and lady, when you're structuring your stories, do you ever run into any kind of glitches, like you paint yourself into a corner and it becomes like a writer's block sort of situation? How do you deal with those situations? Jason?
I deal with them very badly.
I think everyone does, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, and it's always kind of the same for me. 'Cause, you know, like you said, it will become this writer's block type of thing, and then it's just this monster in my head. Like in particular, the book that I'm working on now is you know, and I had wanted to write this scene of this giant, you know, this spaceship that's coming into orbit and it's crashing into this this town, and I could not do it. I could not write around this scene, and I couldn't get it in my, I could see it perfectly, but I couldn't get it on paper, and it had just become this huge monster. And just this past week I'd sat down again and I said, okay, and this is what I usually do when I come on these situations is you know, forget it. I'm just writing a couple sentences here about what I want to be here and moving on with the story, and then I'll come back and flesh it out later, you know, after, because, you know, I don't like to hold up the writing process and hold up the creativity and start stifling the energy, you know, the flow, you know, that I'm trying to work with, because I come upon these things. But I do it a lot, you know, I do it every time. It is the same thing. It always becomes that monster for a while, and I'll spend days fretting over it, and you know, until I just finally throw up my hands and say, you know what, forget it. I'm doing it. I'll figure it out later. And you know, and I usually do. So yeah, but
So your advice to writers, to new writers, is to just kind of skip right over that part and go on to the next, so you keep that flow going and the momentum of the story.
Yeah. You know, to me, it's in part of my process. You know, when I get to the editing process, you know, the editing process is the real, like, fine tuning of the story for me, and flushing it out and crafting it and turning it into, you know, the vision that I really want it to be. And so, you know, so that initial process, that initial writing phase, for me needs to be just getting it out on paper, and literally paper. I literally type on a typewriter. I don't use a computer, but and just to get it out, you know, and then go back and look at it, and work with it then, because, whenever you got time and you're not trying to get to this next chapter or something, and you're trying to just focus on this one scene that you really want to get right. I mean, it's a different kind of creativity, for me, in my process anyway. And I can approach it in different ways, and I can look at it in different ways than I can when I'm just, like I said, when I'm in that initial process and I'm just trying to get things out. Because then it's like a dam, that writer's block becomes a dam and everything's backing up behind it. And so I got to get this out. So yeah, I mean, definitely, don't get caught up on it would be my advice. Put down a couple sentences about what you want to go here, and what you're seeing in your head, and then flush it out later. And whenever the stress and the pressure of getting the draft out is not there.
I love that. That is awesome advice, truly. Patrick, how about you?
I agree completely with Jason. I'm a big fan of put up the meanwhile sign. You get to one scene, you can't do it. Meanwhile, and then you go in and write another scene. And sometimes an idea from that other scene will help you resolve what was there earlier.
And sometimes I think that's the big issue is you haven't written the scene ahead that needs to kind of be referenced, from the perspective where you were. You have to be able to go in, go out of a story, through different areas. And I think sometimes if a writer can't come up with a certain situation that they feel is going to work in this area of their plotting, then I think that they just kind of stop. Oh, well, I'll come back to it. And if you are someone who is writing every single day, you can't kind of just leave it there, to rest. I mean, you can let it rest while you go on with the story, but I wouldn't suggest letting it just sit there and then not writing at all and feeling as though you have writer's block, because I think that is one of the big issues with writer's block. The term writer's block is you're blocked from writing. And if you don't see it that way in your psyche, the story is going on. You just are having to come up with a different scene in a different area, so I definitely love that advice. That was great advice. Now, how long before you guys, when you write your book from start to finish, how long does it usually take you? Do you put yourself on a deadline? John?
I try not to, because with the nature of my job, I actually cover sports, and so I'm really busy from fall to spring. So I kind of set like a general idea of, hey, I want to write at least one novel a year. I start early enough in the fall to where I can get some good steam on it, and then I just work at it a little bit each day, and I kind of set a general time frame of, I want to get this done by the spring, but I don't set like a hard fast deadline, like I need to have this done by a certain day, because things just happen where I can't meet the hard fast deadlines. But if I have like a general time frame I'm working with, then it takes a little bit of pressure off, and I don't have trouble with the writer's block or things like that could derail the story.
Barbara?
Well, when I started my first book, I did it on NaNoWriMo in November, and I did skip a big chunk so I could keep going with the story, and then went back in and filled in the middle. I didn't really actually have a deadline. I was so shocked that I finished the NaNoWriMo that I thought, well, nobody will ever know I wrote anything, so why not publish it? And then slowly found out how it morphs into this really big thing, like editors, design, book covers, and all this. But it took me from the beginning of November to May 31st to publish that one. And then I didn't publish the next one until August or no, I'm sorry. It took me till August 31st the next year to publish that one in 2019. And then I didn't publish the next one until May 31st. And I kind of gave a, a loose timeline for that. But as I was doing book 2, I thought, I really want to just get book 3 out of the way so that I can take a break. Though for some reason that I'm taking a break from the writing part, but not all the other stuff that goes with it. Seems like it just keeps going. So on book 3, I did push hard. I found some times where I just couldn't write because I was getting kind of like more, not worn out, but just burnt out. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to get it out, push it out for Christmas, get it out there in November. So it all came together. Thanks to a bunch of beta readers and my editor, and I was able to get it out. So I don't plan on doing any more writing till November of this year, and that'll be just to expand a short story that I have that's on my website for free. But yeah,
that's awesome. Good for you. And you did how did you enjoy doing the NaNoWriMo?
Yeah.
They're going to kill me.
I did.
Wrong. I never say that name wrong. Please,
yeah.
Please pronounce it.
I say NaNoWriMo.
Nano. Yes, NaNoWriMo. I keep calling it NaNoWriMo.
If you read the really small dedication in the front of my book, it says, should I read it right? It says, dedication page to my boys, Marcus and Thomas, who accidentally inspired me to write. I mean, I've always had stories, but their dad required them to write for NaNoWriMo. And well, they, how most teenagers are, they don't want to write.
Yeah.
But, I was like, I don't understand. You guys don't have to do another subject at all. No math, no science, no nothing. I'd write. And I hated writing back in school. But no, they got me involved in it. And I started a few stories, never finished them. And with NaNoWriMo changing their rules, I was going to finish the first story, which now is my actual short story. Mm-hmm. And I started reading that on a bus ride to New York, and I'm like, forget it. And I started developing a whole new story. And of course, did not take any notes from everything going on in my head. And so when day 1 came, I looked at a flashing cursor on the screen and went, crap, and had to figure out where to start. And then it rolled from there. So, yeah.
But you had a lot of fun with it?
I did. And the funny thing is when I started book 2, I wasn't really, or no, was it book 3? Yeah, book 3. I wasn't really so sure about the nano thing, or maybe it was book 2. I don't remember. No, it was book 2. When I started it, I was slow. I was in Hawaii when Nano started, and my aunt kept wanting me to hurry up and get going on book 2. And like, you're not helping. I can't sleep when you do that, because then it just goes in my head. But I was falling way behind. And then I was like, wait a minute, the certificate is a time machine certificate. I must have that. Give me a second and I'll show it to you. I was like,
we got an agenda.
I've got to have this. Oh, now you can't see it because of the background. There you go.
You can when you put it, lean it downward.
Down, up.
Over, there you go.
Anyways.
Perfect.
I had to have that. And so I was like, okay. So I busted my butt to type some more words so I could get the 50,000. But yeah.
Has anyone else tried NaNoWriMo?
No.
Nobody else has tried it? I haven't either. I'm just curious because I know a lot of authors speak of it, and they say it is so much fun, that they had such a wonderful time and they learned so much, and it was great for networking. But yeah, I haven't tried that yet. First, I have to learn how to pronounce that name.
One of the
time, I'm telling you, I calling it either NaNoWriMo, NoNoWriMo. It's not in my head.
Well, the interesting thing is they actually have different authors do little training sessions or talk about how they wrote their books and stuff. And I didn't get a chance to watch it, but Andy Weir from The Martian was on one year.
Nice.
So, I mean, they get some pretty good, people in there, and you get some discounts. I got pretty good discount on Scrivener, which I'm still struggling with all the good, cool stuff you can do with it. But I definitely love being able to write a chapter and then go, oh, it belongs up here, and just move it, not have to sit there and copy and paste. It just moves it around and stuff. So, yeah.
Now, what do you guys find is the hardest thing in writing? What gave you the most challenge? Anyone can speak up.
The marketing, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the marketing. I still haven't gotten that one down. I spend more money than I make by far.
Now, when you write your first book, when you were finished, when you were finished with it, what was the first thing you did? I know that I would personally say, from what I understand, at least 60% of writers have a specific thing they do after they write the end. What is your either quirky little dance? What is it that each one of you do? Because I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. We want to know this. John,
Yes.
how about you? Hello, John? Oh,
I just said I do a fist pump.
oh, okay. That's why I didn't hear you. I apologize. Patrick, what's your little yay moment?
Yeah, I'm kind of obnoxious. I'm like, yes, and then just because it's just this. I have vanquished these words. I'm a god.
Stomp the city
Until the edit starts and the crits start coming in, and then you're back to being a humble ant. But for a moment, you are God.
Are you telling everyone? Are you on the phone calling people?
Oh, absolutely. I'm obnoxious.
Are you? Everyone knows.
I'm calling people, random people. Who is this? I just wrote a book.
It's 3 in the morning and I wrote it. It's finished. Jason, how about you?
A couple days before I finish, I go down to the cigar shop and I get a cigar, and then after I finish, I sit there with my stack of papers and smoke a cigar and drink some scotch and read through what I just wrote.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
See, readers love to know exactly when. I've been asked this multiple times. Like, what do you do the moment you're finished? Like, is it a happy dance? Do you go into the woods and like light a fire? What do you do? Because I write dark literature. And I'm like, actually, I dance with Orpheus. That's our little thing, because he is my muse and he gives me so much inspiration, especially when there's times where I'm trying to think of something and it's a serious moment and I can kind of glance over and I look at him and I'm thinking, I'm sitting here with a skeleton. How can I not think of something dark at this moment? What is wrong with me? And instantly something will come. And that is those amazing revelations. But as far as when it comes to the moment I'm done, after I do a dance with him, then it's like Red Lobster time. I have to have my lobster and I have to have a drink, and I am probably, now let me ask you guys this, like Patrick had referred to, the ego. How much ego do you ride, and how long does it keep that momentum going? Now this is just for myself. I just want to know. And you said by the time the reviews hit. Now, does everyone read their reviews?
I read them all. I don't let myself respond.
Yeah, I don't respond. I
look at them, but same here. I don't respond to any of them.
I take that back. I did respond to one review, but it wasn't on Amazon. It was on Goodreads on the short story. And it was a fairly it was an okay review, but it was like a 3-star, and they were talking about all the whatevers, and and I was like, oh, well, thank you very much. And I used what they said to fix it, before I made it, a full, and got it republished on the short story.
So they were helpful.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's beautiful.
there's some people that are just downright mean.
Unfortunately. But that's
Yeah.
great that you actually had a reader that you ended up changing. So that's beautiful because of the fact that readers know, I mean, we're letting them know that their feedback is instrumental in a lot of the storytelling. Like if they see something, we have scripted everything in with great detail, and it takes tons of editing and so many hundreds of readovers and read-throughs. And at the end of the day, there's times where you're just so close, you're too close to it, and you're like, I have to put it down. And no matter how many times you come back and read it again, you're not going to notice that you have grammatical errors, or
Right.
because my voice amplifies, and my voice will go up and down in different postules. And the thing of it is when you're writing, that's how I write as well, which we had spoke of. And when you have an issue where you write a sentence and you're trying to exude certain points, I think grammar sometimes, I feel like, will get in the way of things. It won't make it as organic as actually speaking. So I love dialogue. When I have the chance to break it down and go through, and somebody catches me on something, I have one of those aha moments, where it's like, oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, how many of you, is this your first book?
This is my third book. The one was just released last September. My fourth book will be out in July. And I also, that's 4 novels. I also have a short story that's on Amazon.
That is beautiful. Barbara, we see your 3, right?
Right. The 3 for the series, and then the short story that's on my website are the only ones I have published. Yeah.
Okay, Patrick.
6 novels, and a handful of short stories in various anthologies and on a couple of online literary magazine websites. Quantum Muse published some of my stuff. Bard of the Isles published a couple of my stories. And so I have the 6 actual novels.
Jason.
Yeah, I've got, I think this is my 4th novel. I've got a collection of plays. I've got a handful of short stories, or novellas that I've put up, and various places online as well. And Andromeda Spaceways In-Flight magazine published one of my poems a while back, and then some stories and stuff that are out there. But yeah. My first novel I actually published in 2008, right at the beginning of all of the self-publishing craze. Is anybody around for that? That was a crazy time.
I've heard a lot.
Missed it.
Yeah, when KDP first hit and Amazon was like all the rage, and people were going crazy.
Oh yeah. No, it was nuts, and they were charging a ton of money, and they were selling us a lie back then too, because at that time, and it wasn't. I mean, KDP wasn't even really on the scene at that time. It was other places like iUniverse and Book Pros, and these dudes that aren't even around more, and they were charging like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for these book packages, right? Yeah, and they were hooking these people in because it was brand new back then, and everybody thought that, okay, if I publish my book through them, then I'm going to get to go down to Barnes and Noble and see it, and no, that's not how it was, and that went on for a few years, and then until the the industry kind of balanced itself out, and we don't have that much anymore with those kind of predatory like publishers with the KDP stuff and all that kind of stuff. But
Now, how do we feel about the vanity presses? Because I know I get that question a lot, actually, with the vanity presses that they solicit for books, but you have to put a lot of money up front. And I was always curious because I haven't indulged in the vanity presses. So has any one of you tried that route?
No.
No.
Okay.
I don't look at them as legitimate. I mean, their whole point is to make tons of money off of you through all the upfront costs that they charge you, but they do absolutely nothing to help you market or promote or distribute your book. I mean, they print like 1,000 or 5,000 copies or whatever, and you're on the hook for it.
Oh my God.
Customer is not
sell them and get rid of them or do whatever with them. I mean, the difference between those and say self-publishing, through Amazon or through Ingram Spark, is that when they print a book, it'll be one book or two books, depending on who's ordering it and how many they order. They don't print like 5,000 books, charge you for 5,000 books, and say, "Here you go. Good luck. Try and distribute them somewhere."
I didn't know they work that way. I've heard a lot of stories about vanity presses, but yeah, the publishing in I have a lot of author friends, and they I guess they're very protective in that regard, and I'm very, very truly thankful. So when I come to the authors and I ask you questions, I know that the readers are going to be happy to meet you, and they're learning from you, because there are a lot of future writers out there that were literally coming here and watching the show so that they can learn from you. So I thank all of you for coming on and spending time in your day to spend time with us. And I have had a beautiful time. And as far as, I have one last question. What is your last and best piece of advice that you have ever received? Whether it be from an author, your mom, or someone else when it comes to writing. Patrick?
Write the story that you want to read.
Okay. I love it. Jason?
It'd probably be this Franz Kafka quote that I had come across about not watering it down and not censoring your soul, and to write with your most intense passion, and that's what I try to live by. Yeah.
Barbara?
Well, being a new writer and stuff, I don't have much, but the one thing that sticks with me the most, and a lot of authors have trouble with this, is to show more, tell less. I had an author friend that read my first manuscript, and that was the first thing he told me. So I went back in and had to go through and do a bunch of editing to try and show more of what was going on versus telling.
Okay. John?
Find your own voice. There's so many people that will tell you, write to market, write in this hot genre, write in that hot genre. But I disagree with that. I say find your own voice, tell the story that you want to tell. No one else can share the story that you have to share. And so, be brave, be bold, and put that story out there for the rest of the world to see.
I love it. You guys have given such wonderful advice, truly. Now, can you show your books again? Other than Barbara, we can see them. Good. I like it. Good job. All righty. Guys, I thank you so very much for joining us tonight. And readers, if you want to get in touch with any one of our authors, Jason, Patrick, Barbara, John, please get in touch with me, Opus Knight, and I will connect you with any one of them. Or you can, I'm going to let them go through and tell you precisely where you can contact them yourself, one-on-one. John?
My author website is johnkuhn.net, and that's where you can get news on all my stories, upcoming releases, stories currently out, that sort of thing. On social media, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is John Kuhn Sports. I have a Facebook author page, facebook.com/jkuhn. And then I'm on Instagram. My handle there is jkuhn312. And I also have Amazon author page, a Goodreads author page, and a BookBub author page. So there's plenty of ways to follow me and get in contact with me.
Wonderful. Okay, Barbara?
Okay, I'm still working on this, but the site is pretty much up. I'm doing a new website. So people can find me at barbarajgilbert.com. And then, of course, you can find, I have an Amazon page, Bookreads or BookBub, Goodreads, as well as a Facebook page, which is author-Barbara-Gilbert. So, yeah, you can find me in those various locations.
Wonderful. Patrick?
My author site is Ink and Bourbon Publishing, and you can find it under inkandbourbon.com, all one word. I've also got all my stuff is up on Amazon. If you just look under Patrick Clark, my Amazon page, everything's there. I also have a Goodreads page. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram because I don't understand it. I have to have my 13-year-old explain it to me. But for right now, that's where I am.
Jason?
I'm on website is jasondegray.com, and I am also on all the social medias. Facebook at Jason DeGray, author. Twitter, I don't Twitter much, but I'm there at Infinity Jones. And then Amazon and Goodreads, I have author pages there as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
anytime. I've had a great time. Everyone, this has been Night Vision, and thank you for joining us. See you soon. Bye-bye, y'all.
Have a good night.
Have a
Have a
great
night.
night, everyone.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.